All right. Hello, everybody. Jose Rodriguez here. I just had to do this today because I really didn't want to do it as a video. I wanted to do it as a live stream because I just became aware through a very dedicated viewer who has a Pro-1000, and he has been keeping, meticulous data on what that Pro-1000 does. Now, we got to go back a long time ago when the Pro-9500 Mark II. This is the first 10-color pigment ink printer that Canon made for the consumer at home. So that came after the 9000 and then the 9000 Mark II. Those were 8-color printers, and they utilized green as well as red ink. So it was pretty, revolutionary back in the day. Again, great printers. It's just that nobody really realized what was going on, and somebody leaked a service manual for the 9500. That's what created this big snowball about these cleaning cycles. Okay, it's stated clearly in black and white English, maybe lost in the translation from the original Japanese text. But anyway, this is what everybody understood as being the gospel truth because it was on the service manual. These are the bits of information, not bits, but the booklet of information that a repairman will have access to, not us users at home. So when this leaked out, we were very happy to see it. It stated very clearly 60 hours, 120, 240, and 480 hours of interval of time that a cleaning cycle will be generated the next time you were to print something. And that if you printed something, it would then zero out the counter. Wrong. This turned out to be not true at all. Maybe it was about the 9500 Mark II, but then we took that information and carried it onward onto the new models that were coming out. And such is not the case. So the cycles are there. And they occur for the very reasons that I have till the cows come home already spoke about. Residue buildup, all sorts of different things that can take place where the printer will decide, hey, I need to run a cleaning cycle to flush out whatever it might be in there, whatever was developed during printing. So the thinking has been that, yeah, these cycles occur, but you cannot disable them by simply printing something. No. They will still be happening at certain time intervals. Well, that was the thought, and that may be still the case with something simple like a Pro-100, Pro-10, possibly even the Pro-1. My Pro-10, I just printed this. I printed something yesterday. I'm using it to print all sorts of things, photos, cards, documents, whatever. And it hardly ever runs a cleaning cycle. I don't know why. I just send something and I hear it right next door beginning to print. What's going on? I have no idea. Whereas the Pro-1000, again, is a different animal. The Pro-1 too. If I don't print something today, maybe tomorrow I come back and I print and it's been over 2.5 days, it will run a clean cycle prior to printing. Now, the thought was that these 60-hour cleaning cycles are the only ones that will occur. In other words, if I print something now and I print something 8 hours from now and 8 hours after that, up to 60 hours, those previous print jobs, not the first one, that's the one that generated the cleaning cycle, but all of the subsequent print jobs up to that 60-hour time limit would be preceded with no cleaning cycle. Maybe a pre-priming, maybe an agitation cycle, but definitely not a cleaning cycle. Well, yes and no. Apparently, according to a very dedicated viewer, Apostol Mamiya is his name, he has a Pro-1000 and he has been weighing cartridges. He has been keeping meticulous data, notes, and everything more than I do. Okay, I really don't do that. I have 13 printers that I would have to do that with. There's no way I'm going to do that. I do have a life besides this channel. Yeah, believe it or not. So, here's the information that he has provided for us. Remember, my theory of the cleaning cycles being required to clean out any residue that may be built up, any dried ink that may occur after a certain number of hours of not printing. Many reasons it needs to do those. But will they be restricted only to 60 hours? In other words, if the residue is created by printing, okay, and I print several hundred prints on my Pro-1000, one after the other, for the next 60 hours, or say 59 hours and 59 minutes, will none of those prints generate a cleaning cycle? I used to think so. Apparently not. The cleaning cycles will be triggered when the printer feels, thinks, needs, whatever word you want to use. It requires it. It needs it. It will perform that cleaning cycle. It could be in 10 hours. If you print a lot and you generated a lot of residue because of the printing process Canon printers use, they do generate. I could just imagine that happening inside that printhead. Okay? All of those little droplets of ink being basically evaporated. Don't tell me that that ink can be evaporated and 100% of it leaves that nozzle compartment. I don't think so. I really don't think so. So are the 60-hour cycles going to be, say, altered if you print a lot? It looks that way. If you're printing a lot, you generate a lot more residue. Therefore, you might need a sooner than 60 hours cleaning cycle. He's going to provide me with a lot of data, okay, as he collects it. So this is going to be welcome. This is the kind of anecdotal data that we all need, because no one has told us about this. No one, okay? The engineers won't tell you that. None of the Canon printer data that you see, not data, but hype that you see on the ads tell you anything about this. This will come totally unannounced to you, the user, okay? When you see your ink levels beginning to drop. Now, there's all kinds of different attitudes and practices. If I just leave my printer off for 2 weeks, that would be 240 hours or so. I will generate a cleaning cycle. Will that cleaning cycle be less than the 2 60-hour cleaning cycles? Say if I print, daily, maybe one print a day, after 2.5 days, that's 60 hours. Well, one print generates a little bit of a residue, so it might not run a cleaning cycle if I print an image, say, at the 50th hour. It may not. Okay, my Pro-10 doesn't. You see? So the Pro-1000 is probably a different kind of animal. One, it's a species unto itself. There's nothing else like it. And I assume that the Pro-2000s and higher also react the same way. So again, it's not going to be every 60 hours. It may be, depending on your how much you print, will determine if it stays at that 60-hour schedule or decides to do it sooner than that, as it needs to. It may actually sense it. It may actually know smartly that it needs to clear that printhead. So on your 37th print in the next day, say you print that often, it might precede that one last print with a cleaning cycle. Okay, that doesn't mean it's going to reset that timer, does it? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Again, no one really knows. Okay, I did a test on my Pro-100. It's dye ink, so who cares, right? It may generate a lot less residue than a pigment printer. That's our theory, my theory, actually. So I decided to do it right at noon one day. So I did it at noon, and then I printed a job, just one print, that's all it was. And then I went ahead and waited like an hour, and I proceeded to make another print, and it began to print immediately. And I did that then the next day. So that would have been 24 hours at noon the next day. Again, it printed without a cleaning cycle. And then I waited to about it was like 119 hours or something like that. And it printed without a cleaning cycle. Then I waited 120 hours plus like 1 minute, and it proceeded with a cleaning cycle. So that's why I said, okay, I nailed that down. Now I know that the Pro 100 will do it exactly at 120 hours plus 1 minute or whatever. What if I had printed 60 images, okay, one after the other? Will the printer job of 60 prints have generated residue that would have told the printer, hey, don't wait till 120 hours, okay? You better clean yourself now. I don't know. Yeah, that might be the case. Who knows? I haven't printed that much. Okay, that kind of, large volume of prints. When I did this job right here, we got here, I don't know how many. I'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 prints, or about 9 by 12. You can see them here. This is the job that I did when I was doing the testing of the new Precisioncolors Signature Edition inks compared to OEM. And then later on, I actually received the cyan, so I added that, did another batch. When I first started that job, yes, it ran a cleaning cycle, but I finished that whole set of prints in one evening. None of the subsequent prints were preceded by a cleaning cycle. Okay, so maybe it did not need to do that. So it's not going to be like the way it's looking now after, all of this information comes from users. Because again, like I said, no one has given, this is not part of your instruction manual for any of these printers. It will not mention anything about these pre-print cleaning cycles being performed after certain intervals of time. It doesn't say anything about that. No one has, we found out about that accidentally, in fact. We were wondering what the hell is going on with all these cleaning cycles. Why is it doing all of that noise prior to printing? Why? Epsons don't do that. Why are Canon printers doing that? Nobody really knew. No one knew. So we're learning as we go. So don't get mad at me for passing information that was passed on to me as that is what's happening right now. And this is what I have witnessed on my own printers. And I've had the 9000, the 9500, the Pro 100, the Pro 10, the Pro 1, and now the Pro 1000. So I've had a fair number of Canon printers, and they've all behaved that way, okay? They've all behaved the same way. It's just that we don't know if the 60-hour clock gives you the ability to just print till the cows come home, stack that high during that 60-hour period without a single cleaning cycle. Maybe not. Maybe not. It will perform a cleaning cycle as it needs to. When it detects that it needs to, it will do it. Will it reset to 0? I have no idea. Maybe it will. It would require somebody to actually sit for weeks and print and just keep track of whatever is going on. In other words, you would never leave your house. Okay. Now, what I think is actually still taking place is for you guys, as well as me, who print very seldom. Okay. And so if I print something at 7 o'clock in the morning and I come back 2.5 days later with an hour before that's 60-hour period, and I print something, it may not be preceded by a cleaning cycle. It might be a little bit of a purge cycle because it needs to prime the print head, and at the end it needs to purge out any residue of ink on the purge pad. So you will hear noises. I really don't know what's taking place. I really do not know. Hold on. You would have to literally fool the sensor on your lid so you can have it open and view what the print head is doing. Maybe if it was attached to the purge pad and you heard a bit of sounds like a vacuum noise, and then it detaches and moves slightly to the left, and then you see that the purge pad has ink on it, and then it empties out. That's the whirling action you hear. Then that's a cleaning cycle. But if it's maybe just one cycle, in other words, print head attaches, it sucks, It lifts off, moves to the left, empties. That's one cycle in that cleaning cycle. Okay. When it does a real clean cycle, it'll do that cycle, if you will, several times. And every time it does that, 1 or 2 milliliters of ink come out. Now, how much ink is actually used? Who knows? The data that Mr. Mamiya had available indicated that whether it's a 60-hour cleaning cycle or a 120-hour cleaning cycle, it didn't really double like people were speculating. And I have been told, okay? But again, how do you measure that on a Pro 100 or a Pro 10? You would have to literally remove the cartridges, weigh them one at a time, pop them back in. But when you close the lid, you run a purge cycle. Again, you lose some weight again. So that would not be a good candidate for keeping track of ink usage by weighing it. The best one is the Pro 1000. And the reason being, you don't have to take out any of those cartridges. Just remove the maintenance cart, weigh it before, pop it back in, record that weight, run the printer. Oh, it performs a cleaning cycle prior to my print. Okay. Whether it's a 4x6 or a 16x20, it will run the same size cleaning cycle, whatever it decides it needs to do. And it's almost as if it's AI. Okay. It's almost as if the printer will realize that the printhead now is clean and it can stop. Now, the agitation cycles, it sounds like a little machine gun. It's a little set of pistons internally agitating that ink, apparently inside those compartments. I think that's where it's happening. So it will do that for a given amount of time. I think he said it was 33 seconds, something to that effect. And it will do that as it needs to. Again, it may be able to sense when it needs to. So it's not going to be at a specific set of hours or time frame. Again, see, we're learning a lot here. This may not be as simple as I thought it was, okay? And I'm waiting to see and hear more data from this young person. I guess he's young. I'm 70, so I assume he's a younger guy because he's got a lot more energy than I do. So yeah, that would be fantastic to be able to get that information. So he's keeping track of maintenance cart weights before and after cleaning cycles. And then it may end up being that none of the data makes sense. It may be that. It may be that there is no sequence of events, if you will, as to when they occur. It just happens randomly. According to us, it would be, oh, that's random, but actually not random. It would be when the printer decides it needs to do it. So it wouldn't be considered random. And yet again, not considered scheduled either. I would love to hear from you guys what you think about this whole thing. Now, let me read to you. It is called My 2 Cents, and this is again one of my very, very good followers here in the channel. Ink will inevitably dry out in the nozzle ejection zone. So that means at the very near the exit point of the printhead, right at the nozzle plate area. When the printer is cold and not being used, hence the 60-hour, 120 hours, 240-hour cycles. So that just refers to the fact that people are confused. They think the printer will wake up and while you're sleeping and run a 60-hour cleaning cycle. It'll say, oh, 60 hours, wake up, run a cleaning cycle, and then go back to sleep. No, it won't do that. It'll just sit there. If you print something now, this is assuming, let's just stick to that hourly set of cycles, 60, 120, 240, 480. Let's just say you print something at hour 0 and something at hour 61. So it'll run a cleaning cycle and it will set itself back to 0. That's what we think, okay? What if I just run something, clean cycle is performed, hour 0 starts again, but I don't do anything until 121 hours. It'll run a cleaning cycle the next time I print, of course. But it would have run a cleaning cycle at 119 hours or 110 or 90 or 80. It'll still run a cleaning cycle because you went past 60. Okay. Now, if I just do a nozzle check, I don't print a single photo, just a nozzle check. A nozzle check by itself is not going to produce too much residue. So the 60-hour will probably apply, okay? I can probably print a nozzle check every 2 hours and none of them will be preceded by a cleaning cycle. That's not the same as printing a big image. A big image will exercise those nozzles 1,000 times more than a nozzle check would, okay? The nozzle check only exercises each nozzle one time. That's it. One time. What you are seeing is the result of every individual nozzle that is available for printing. Okay? Printing's a little line. That's it. And it creates a grid, and that's what you see. So, not the same as printing a big old photo. Not the same as printing even this little photo right here. In this case, every nozzle that is active is pretty much exercised, pretty much stressed out, if you will. So a lot more residue will be created. So if I was to print like every hour, a few prints, I would reach a point maybe in hour 20 that a cleaning cycle would be generated because the printer deemed it necessary due to the amount of buildup that I generated during that particular job. Every single hour, I was printing several photos. So it seems to be related to the number of photos. I always said it's related to the amount of printing you do, and printing is not going to disable it. Okay? So the analogy of, or the thinking of, well, I'll just print less, I'll use less ink. No, you're still going to use ink in cleaning cycles, whether you print or not, because the next time you print, you're going to generate clean cycles. If I only print nozzle checks, I can't sell a nozzle check for money to anyone, so I'm not generating any revenue. I'm not using my expensive ink to create beautiful prints. I'm using it to keep my printhead clean. Yeah, that would be crazy. Hang on. I can't see who that is. Probably a telemarketer, as always. All right, let's see who we have here. We have a few people here on board. We've got 28 people. Let's hit some likes here, please. Hit me with some likes because I really need that. Okay, I really do need that. So if you enjoy the information, again, all you got to do is click that like button. Hit me with a like, please. Ask away. If you own one of these printers, please ask away, as we may be able to solve some of the questions that I know plague every Canon owner, okay? Printer, that is. So go ahead and ask away. Roy Evans has a Canon Pro-1000. Fred has a 1000. And he just sent me, yes, they arrived today, my friend. Thank you so much for that. The box arrived today. I got them down here in my shop right now. And again, I will be running some tests to see what happens if I refill a declared empty cartridge with ink. I have OEM ink in 700 milliliter cartridges. I will be refilling some of those, and then I will be loading them on my printer and see what happens. Because people have said that even though they are declared empty, they're able to add ink and it just keeps on printing happily. And I don't know, I want to test that. The only way to do that, it was an OEM chip, not a second or third party, I should say, chip. Those may not react in the same manner. So you need an OEM chip. And you should be able to also disable ink monitoring, which is not something I would recommend, but I need to experiment just to see what exactly does that do. Okay, so the fact that I would need extra cartridges, that's why I ask you guys, if you're not going to refill and you have no use for your empties, do donate them to the channel, and I can use them for research purposes. And I can also possibly give Precisioncolors a few of them so that they can also run some research and see what would be the best the best approach. for refilling, as we all want to refill our Pro-1000s with good inks. Claire Sloan says, okay, Iglo Aradotir, Canon Pro-1000. So that's what he has. Great. So we have Claire Sloan with a Pro-1000 here having problems after only a month of printing and fighting with Canon. Are you the one that just contacted me or left a comment? Oh, no, you left a comment on the Facebook group. Yeah, that is weird. Are you the one with the banding problem, in other words? Yeah, that is really weird. That may be something odd. I have not experienced that, and I don't think you should be either. So, again, I would just hammer down and make sure that Canon takes care of you. Send you a new printer, period. Charles Verbruggen has a 95 Mark II, 9500 Mark II. Berhard Moore, Southington, Connecticut, has a Canon Pro-100. Rusty Nelson, of course, he's got the Pro-1000, of course. I agree with the amount. Iglo Aradotir, I can't say that. I agree with the amount of printing has some effect on the frequency of cleaning cycles. My printer does not generate at 60 hours. Yeah. So perhaps the paper media type also has some effect. It may be a bunch of different factors. A bunch. Let's continue reading this. So he said, the longer it stands unused, the more it is assumed that there will be progressively more and more dried ink in these zones. So this is just talking about ink drying out. Theoretically, the printhead parks itself on the purge pad or parking station or whatever, the sponge, whatever you want to call it. There is a gasket that will seal itself against it, and it should be maintained wet. It should be moist. It should not dry out. The drying will occur after quite a bit of time when your printer gets old and that gasket has never been cleaned and it begins to get crusty. It begins to get, because during the printing process, that gasket is exposed to air. So any ink that may be on it, for whatever the reason, is going to begin to dry up and become crusty or gunky or whatever. And the ability to seal on that, that's also what will allow the purge pump to be able to extract ink through the printhead when it needs to perform a cleaning cycle. That's how it works. Ink is not pushed out, it is sucked out by the purge pad. The ink that's collected sits there, and then the pump begins to pump away the ink into the internal waste ink cartridge. That's how it works. So you need to have that clean. This pertains only to cleaning being a necessary thing to unclog, to physically unclog a printhead. We're not talking about removal of any residue that may develop during printing. Okay, so otherwise, if no residue was being developed during printing, then why would you need a maintenance cycle? If I'm printing daily on an EPSON printer, if I print daily, it's never going to run a cleaning cycle. Never. If I wait a month on my P800, it will run a cleaning cycle prior to printing. EPSON printers will do that as well. Not the same way as Canon printers do. It will run a cleaning cycle. It may be enough to clear whatever clog may have developed during that month of no printing, neglect. The only thing you can do is to let it run the cleaning cycle, then proceed with a nozzle check. In fact, run that nozzle check before you do anything, okay, on an EPSON printer. Let's go back to this. But if you think printing regularly or a huge number will make any difference, in my view, it will not. Even if you print within the 60-hour zone, yes, you will prevent a deeper cleaning cycle. Same goes for 120 and 240. That is as good as it's gonna get. But remember, when you are printing, you are creating debris from thermal printing. That's what I said. It has nothing to do with the precautionary stood idle dry ink cleaning cycles we get so frustrated with. it's a double hit for sure, because as you are steaming through that huge print job, by necessarily the printer will gobble up more ink to clear the debris created during the actual printing. Printheads don't just whiz back and forth, print after print after print. Periodically, they appear to pause. When it is paused, it is not stopping to catch its breath. It is pausing to gulp another drop of tour ink to keep those pipes clean. Yeah. So, yeah, that is a very good explanation, if you will. Here's what happens. We need to go back a long time ago, okay? I had a printer, I believe it was an R1900, which is the predecessor of the 2000. I still have it. It's not working right now, but I still have it. And on the left side of the printer or the printhead travel area, if you open up the lid and look on the far left, there was another rectangular sponge. This was an actual absorbent sponge. And the print head would print, and about every 6 time across, it would go all the way to the left. You could hear it because the rhythm would change. And then, and it would sit there for like a half a second and then come back. When it sat there, it was being wiped. This printer did not have a windshield washer or windshield wiper type wiper blade, okay? The newer printers do have that. So it would wipe itself over there, and that would remove any kind of gunk that was building up on my nozzle plate, and we come back. So Canon printers will perform cleaning cycles whether you print or not. Ain't that something? So if, like I said, if I just do a nozzle check, that will not create hardly any residue whatsoever. So it doesn't need a cleaning cycle to flush out residue. But what if I just wait 60 hours? Well, that's when that 60-hour clock may actually be activated or may actually be used. 60 hours after that cleaning cycle, after that nozzle check, if I print again, I didn't print at all between that original nozzle check, hour 0 until 60 hours, so I didn't generate anything. It will run a cleaning cycle because you waited 60 hours. And it'll be totally unnecessary. Did it clog during 60 hours? More than likely not. You know, there's no way it's going to clog in 60 hours, okay? So it's going to run it anyway, whether you like it or not. It's going to run it because it just wants to run it. And if I print 50 16 by 20s within those 60 hours, it's going to probably run 1 hour 10 of your print, that huge print job, because it will generate residue. So you see, there's 2 reasons for the cleaning cycles. And I just wanted to do this so that I could bring this up to you guys. So all of you guys that are getting into Canon printers, as wonderful as they are, you need to realize what you are dealing with and what you are getting into, okay? And don't scream and holler later. This is part of the way Canon printers work, okay? Now, don't rush out and go get an EPSON printer because of this. Canon printers will allow you, all of them, including the Pro-1000, to refill and use a third-party ink of your choice, whereas it's getting even more and more rare with EPSON printers. So far, the P600 and the P400 have not been, locked away from printing with third-party cartridges. P800 definitely, yes. So anyway, let's continue on here, see what we got here. This has only been like half an hour, so I still have some coffee here. It's getting cold though. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up to you guys because I thought, okay, this is getting really confusing here, and I don't want to be the cause of even more confusion. So even though this is a live stream, once we get off the air, this will become a video, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it to my Facebook group and let you guys discuss at your heart's content. The fact is that cleaning cycles are going to happen regardless, apparently. They're going to happen as needed, as required, as sensed by the Pro-1000, specifically the Pro-1000 and the Pro-1. You guys that own those two printers, get ready, because that's what it's going to do. Pro-10, like I said, I've been printing every day on my Pro-10. All sorts of stuff. I printed a batch of photographs the other day. I made 12 8x10s. Not a one was preceded with a cleaning cycle. Not one. Okay, I printed a bunch of 4x6s for a gentleman friend of ours. And again, not a one. That was Sunday. No, that was Saturday evening I did that. And then Sunday we had our live stream. Today is Tuesday. So not a one. I just printed this today. The last time I printed was Sunday evening. So today is Tuesday evening, 4 o'clock, 4:30 almost. And this printed without a clean cycle. So did I pass 60 hours? I really don't know. I really don't care. I'm not keeping track of that any longer. Okay. I'm refilling. Yeah, I'm refilling with OEM, but you know, I'm still refilling. So I'm not concerning myself with this because, you know, whatever money is costing me, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. So I accept it. But the printer, every single time, perfect nozzle checks, perfect print jobs, every time, every single time. There is no cause for me to worry about any of these Canon printers that I'm going to send a print job. Oh, there it goes. It's cleaning again. I just know it's going to be a perfect print. The minute it starts to actually produce that print, I can go upstairs and let it sit there. I come back the next morning. I knew it was going to be perfect. Yeah. Not so with an EPSON printer. Even after that cleaning cycle that it will do after waiting a month. My P800 will do that all the time. My 3880 is the same thing. 2880 is the same thing. If I don't print for a number of weeks, okay, which is bad, I print something and I better run a nozzle check first because I need to see if any nozzles are actually clogged, even after the cleaning cycle that it will perform. It will do that anyway. So EPSONs will not do it every 60 hours or whatever it feels like it. It will do that because you neglected the printer for a month or two. Then it will do that, and that does not guarantee that it will be clear. So the best thing to do, of course, is what I should do every single time, is always begin with a cleaning cycle. Always not a clean cycle. See, I got that in my head. Always begin with a nozzle check. And then that will tell me, hey, I think you need another cleaning cycle besides the one you just had the printer, you know, perform automatically. It will do that. And so for those who say, well, you know, I still waste less ink. Actually, no, you're wasting ink regardless. That's why I wish one of these days they will come up with printers that use a separate liquid for cleaning, any kind of cleaning, for whatever the reason. Eagle also says, perhaps the paper media has, okay, he said, Andrew Montavani says, from the Bronx, using the Pro-100 PC inks and Pro-10 using harvested OEM inks. Steve Avery, Pro-10 here, does new information change your recommendation for Qimage on clock frequency? That had nothing to do. So again, that was old info. You know, doing that unclogged print from Qimage was thought to be the way to eliminate the cleaning cycles. But we now know that's not the case any longer. Is it still a good thing to do? Of course it is. Of course it is. The idea here is to keep the print head nozzles unclogged and not necessarily, although it is related, it's not going to necessarily clear out any residue. That's handled by the cleaning cycles. Okay? It's a twofold thing. The cleaning cycles will keep your printer unclogged as well as residue being washed away. Okay? The Qimage cleaning cycles is actually more effective on EPSON printers than Canon printers. Okay? By doing that on an EPSON printer, you don't ignore it for 2 months straight. So it will not need to have a cleaning cycle. It will not get clogged. Canon printers are always cleaning themselves. Always. Now, if you sit it for a month and a half or 2 months or longer, yeah, then you're doing the same thing you did with an EPSON printer. It will help. It's not useless. okay? It will keep your printer exercise, but it's not going to reduce the cleaning cycle business, okay? In fact, if you're away for, say, a couple of weeks and you schedule one a day, after a certain number of hours pass, whatever that happens to be now. See, now we don't really know. Is it really 60, 120, 240, 480? Is it? Really? Is it? We don't know. Again, no one has really told us. So while you're away, you may pass a certain number of hours, whatever that is. Let's just say 60, okay? Just for the sake of this argument. It will then precede that Qimage unclogged print with a cleaning cycle. That's what it will do. You may be printing one every day, and then, if you're Pro 100, then you assume it's 120 hours. That's 5 days. So you print one before you go on that airplane trip, and then the next day it prints one, the next day it prints one, and then maybe on the 6th day, it will run a cleaning cycle, because this would constitute 120 hours. We don't know. Okay. So like I said, my Pro 100, I ran it the other day. I did, and I hadn't run it in about 3 weeks. Yeah, that's bad, I know. I hadn't run it in about 3 weeks. It ran a short cleaning cycle, and it was ready to go. Nozzle check was perfect. Perfect. Pro 10, again, I run it at least once a day. And I don't have to sit back and wait for a print to begin printing. I don't know why. After printing, it may do an agitation. It does it a little bit different than the Pro 1000. The Pro 10 cartridge, I don't have one here, but the Pro 10 cartridge in the bag, inside that internal bag, has a paddle. And that paddle, when the printhead starts doing the agitation cycle, that paddle inside kind of moves back and forth. The more ink you have, the better it is, because it will agitate a larger volume of ink. But it keeps the ink suspended. The particles are suspended simply by going back and forth like that. It will do that once in a while. If I change a couple of cartridges, it will do the purge cycle. But before that, it will run that agitation cycle. The R2000 from EPSON did that as well. And I don't understand how that would work, because there was no internal anything to move around. Somebody said that they had incorporated a couple of like little BBs in a chamber, and those BBs would move as you print and re-agitate the ink inside one of those passages. EPSON cartridges are extremely intricate. They have many passageways. And so, something like that may have been going on as well. People will dissect those cartridges and try to understand how they work, how the ink flow works, and all of that. But it's very, very, really sophisticated technology that they have incorporated. And that's why we cannot refill EPSON cartridges pretty much at all now. Terry Long has a Pro 100, and he just ordered his first refill supplies. Can't wait. Thank you for your knowledge and tips. Yeah, make sure you follow those instructions perfectly as far as your when you begin to modify those cartridges. I have a video that covers that. I have a CLI-42 modification playlist. Look at that. And again, we are all operating on theories, okay? When we first started to perform refilling on sponge type cartridges, such as Canon uses, we were operating on theory, okay? We had no idea what we were doing. At first, we had tons of failures. And as we started to understand the hydraulics involved in these cartridges, the way that ink is siphoned in some cartridges, work by gravity, maybe by pressurization internally, that sort of thing. We started to comprehend how each type of cartridge operated and came up with variations to help maintain that ink flow at the proper level, so that your printer would continue to work like it did with the much more reliable untampered OEM cartridges. But now we were tampering with them and reducing the reliability. Really, that's what takes. No matter how good you are, you have reduced the reliability of those cartridges. Okay? Don't ever believe that they are still operating as well as they did before you cut that ball out of the factory fill hole. Okay? Absolutely not. now they are not operating as reliable. Okay, so you want to get them to operate as reliable as possible, but there's no way you're going to reach 100% again. Okay, so once you accept that, then it's, you're good to go. Yeah. Alrighty, so I'll just wait a little bit longer, see if there's any more questions. If not, we'll just thank everybody for coming on board, and then we'll see you the next time. But we'll wait a little bit here and see what happens. I do have my comment section open here on the YouTube channel because there were some questions. Dunny Monster, one of my watchers, one of my followers, has some really, really good theories about this as well. And he says, I believe that what we read was attributed to him earlier. He says, as we mentioned before, users should never power down their Canon printers either when not in use. As soon as you disconnect power to the printer, you have to endure a much larger cleaning cycle. So that was applicable, of course, to the 9500 as well. That's what always happened. People, they had a tendency back then to turn off their printer. And there's two ways to do that. Turning it off at the power button. It's like turning off your TV, but the TV really is just asleep. It's not off. Okay? That's why it comes back to life so quickly. The same thing with a printer. You can power it off at the button, and then you can pull the plug off the wall. That's now really off. Okay? So it was the thought way back then that the only way to park the print head onto that purge pad, purge station, parking, whatever you want to call it, it was to power off the printer, because it was just sort of kind of just hover over it. It wasn't really sealing itself. The only way to seal it so that it would be unaffected by drying, let's just say, was to power it off. That way the printer would just land on the purge pad, that gasket would seal, and you would not have any drying during a few days of being off. Well, Canon printers perform very large cleaning cycles after being off, so do not do that. One thing you should do is always disable your power off option on your printer, okay? So let's say you just had a 60 or 100 hour cleaning cycle. Then you pull the plug on that printer, you plug it back in, power it up, and suddenly you get another cleaning cycle. Yeah, it could be 5 minutes from now, so don't do that. See what I mean? The printer just doesn't know. It believes that it has to do it. Yes, it's a drag, but touch wood, my Pro-100 has worked flawlessly since I purchased it with not a single blocked nozzle, and so far. Clearly, those cleaning cycles are preventing me from having inflow issues that would be likely cost a fortune in ink to fix anyway. So, like I said, one way or another, it's going to keep itself cleared. Then, a temporal lighting writes back, but if you turn it on once every 2 weeks, wouldn't it still be saving more ink than in a cleaning cycle that goes off automatically every scheduled 60 hours? Well, it doesn't go off automatically, okay? It only goes off when you print, not automatically. Dunny Monster answers back. I'd say it's more complicated than that, because those 60 to 120 hour cleaning cycles only occur when you actually print. If you leave the printer powered on, you never print. The printer doesn't do cleaning cycles while idle at those 60 to 120 hour periods. So yeah, technically you are saying it's true in that you can argue that having a single larger cleaning cycle will use less ink than having, say, 2 cleaning cycles of the 60 hour or 120 hour periods. The problem, however, is that your printer will maintain ink flow and be less likely to have blocked nozzles by doing smaller, more regular clean cycles. This itself will save ink, because when you do experience blocked nozzles, it could take several deep clean cycles to clear them, and you would end up wasting even more ink. Now, before we continue, a lot of people do this, especially those who are printing very valuable prints. that are for customers and that sort of thing. Regardless of your frequency, you walk in the morning in your shop, the first thing you do is run a cleaning cycle on your printer, followed by a nozzle check. Regardless. I think it should be the other way around. Nozzle check first, see if it needs it. But no, they want to make sure that whatever stagnant ink was sitting in the printhead is pushed out. I don't know how much volume that would be, but if I was selling prints for a couple $100 each, I could care less. I would make sure that I always did that. Again, it's a matter of money. Even if those small cycles did use marginally more ink over, say, a 12-month period, isn't it better to know your printer will function perfectly every single time you use it, rather than the lottery of "I wonder if the nozzles are clogged" situation? Bear in mind, when your nozzles block, it's not just ink you waste. It is potentially expensive print paper and, of course, more valuable time too. As an analogy, it is better to drive your cart 10 miles every day to keep the oil and fluids flowing, or should you just do a 1,000-mile trip every 6 months? What Jose says is absolutely right. If you mostly leave your printer idle, rarely printing, then you have to ask yourself, why did I buy that printer at all? If the cost of ink and the cleaning cycle's wastage is an issue, then refilling will partly resolve the financial impact of that wastage. If, however, you want the best prints your printer can produce, then it's important to know this information before committing to a large multi-ink printer, because for sure neither Canon or Epson will ever tell you these things. And Freehand, another person, answers back, quoting Dunning Munster, "Isn't it better to know your printer will function perfectly every time you use it, rather than the lottery of 'I wonder if the printers are blocked'? No one would ever print for a client without doing a simple nozzle check for themselves. One check per session is all that's needed for 98% of all your print jobs." Yeah, that's what I said. And it goes on and on and on and on. Very interesting set of comments and remarks. So, again, that's what I've been saying all along. Gosh, I did something bad. Hang on a second. I hope I didn't disconnect everybody here. I need to go back and find. I actually closed the window where the live stream was running. I hope it's okay. Let me make sure. Go to live. This is a totally different interface we have going here nowadays. So oh boy. Let me make sure that I didn't mess up. Oh my. And I think, hopefully, we are still live. Please tell me that we're still on, please. Somebody, just quickly tell me. Because I went ahead and closed the window by accident. Yeah, I'm still active, I think. I think we're good. So somebody just tell me that you can still see me and talk. Just ordered my first refill. Okay, so Braun T says, I have a Pro-1000. I just started up, tried to print, and the alignment was off only one side. Have you heard of this? What do you mean the alignment was off only one side? Which side? What do you mean by that? Because the alignment runs horizontal. Okay, so you will see any banding that might be created would be along this direction as the printhead moves. Okay, so everybody can see me. Good. I was afraid I closed the stream accidentally. So again, I'm still getting used to this new user interface that they forced on us. Terry Long says my Pro-100 has been powering it on. Turn that off. Go to your maintenance tab. Here, let me show you real quick. This is what you all need to do. Absolutely everyone needs to do this. It's quite important. Let me open up my control panel. We'll just open up any printer. And this, of course, applies. Sorry, you guys have Macs. The user interface is different on your driver, and I cannot control that. So all I can do is give you what I can do on my Windows type driver. So go to your maintenance tab, and we're gonna go to auto power right here and disable it. Okay, that's all you have to do. And that way the printer will never turn itself off or go to sleep or any other such thing. Okay, you want to prevent that from happening. That way the printer will always be on. It will be inactive, okay? It will not go to sleep per se. So it will not like go in a condition where it thinks it powered off, in other words. And then when you start it back up, it will run a cleaning cycle, possibly unnecessarily, okay? Again, like I said, we can't control these things, but we can sort of tweak the situations so that you're not running them unnecessarily. That's the last thing you want to do. Okay. So everyone can see me. Alrighty. The ending side. So you mean your trailing edge, okay? So the last bit of paper that comes out, you have banding there. Shouldn't be happening. Did you run the auto cleanings, the auto head alignment? Rerun that again and use, unfortunately, for it to be super accurately read by the internal sensor, you have to use a glossy paper. Okay, simple. Glossy papers will not cause dots to spread, and you need to keep a very, very sharp image of those little squares that it prints during that so-called head alignment. That way the print head sensor can actually read that and make the internal adjustment it needs to create for the travel, the amount of travel that paper goes through every time the head passes. It has to match exactly to the width of the band of ink it lays down. Otherwise you will have overlapping or a gap, okay? Banding, yes, it is not noticeable in Intel, what? But the printing is not noticeable until the printing is until the printing is ending. There should be no variability to the banding, okay? I don't understand what it is you're experiencing here. I've never seen that before. So if it keeps on going, if it keeps on happening, you need to contact Canon and just demand that they fix it or give you a new printer if it's under warranty. Simple as that. All right, well, any more questions? While you have me here, I'm here for you guys. Again, keep it to Canon printers at this point, especially if you're talking about cleaning cycles, okay? This is a really touchy subject and something that a lot of people don't really understand or nor even realize they're going to be encountering when they buy a Canon printer. Those of you who already have one will be experiencing this and will have to deal with it. That's about all I can say. Like Dunny said, if you're only going to print once a month, I had an individual, I'll give you this example, belongs to a photo club, and only once a month do they have exhibitions. So he only prints once a month. Well, during all this time that you're shooting pictures and, creating beautiful masterpieces as you edit them and all of this, are you not printing test prints just to see what you will have? Because it's one thing seeing it on the screen and it's one other thing seeing it on a beautiful piece of paper. Okay, so you should be printing. And that will keep that, at least make that printer worthwhile having. Because the reason you have a printer at home is to keep you from having to go back and forth to a local lab. And if you live in the country somewhere, you're not going to have a local lab. You're going to rely on the mail service. And that can be days from the time you email them your file and you get your print back. And by God, it doesn't really match what you thought you were going to get. Okay. And then you got to go back and so on and so forth. Whereas having a printer at home allows you to just go back to your monitor, your screen, and adjust something one way or another. And at the end of the evening, you'll either have a print you like, a result you like, or maybe you will never be satisfied. Who knows? So having a printer at home is quite a luxury on its own, unless it is something that is required by your business because you have a studio, and this is what you do for a living. That's a totally different aspect. Most of us just are home users who want to have the luxury of being able to get that instant gratification, as they call it. Auto cleaning cycle. Now, sorry. Get cleaning cycle out of your head. Now. Auto print head alignment. Okay. What printer do you have again? Quickly tell me and I will go ahead and walk you through it. Tell me what model you have and we'll jump over to the screen and I'll show you. I think you told me that, but okay, Pro-1000. So that's what you have. Let's go ahead and look at the Pro-1000 driver. Okay. Here it is. Right click and printing preferences. We'll move it over to the center here. Go to maintenance. And let's see. Oh, sorry. It's not going to be found in your maintenance. It's going to be found in your LCD screen or your LED screen. So sorry about that. This is an advanced printer, so it'll be available in the LCD under maintenance, I believe. So if you have a tab named maintenance there, you will run your head alignment from inside and also run an internal calibration for that particular printer. Everything again will be on your screen, not on your driver. Okay. So I forgot about that. I have too many printers. I can't keep all that information in my head. Andrew Mantovani, 2, still on. Still on what, buddy? Still here with us. All right. That's what I want. I want you guys to hang in there with me. Listen to all the trivial matters that, no, not trivial. Good information that I have to pass on. Yeah, I wish. I need to contact the original poster who gave me the information that kind of got me thinking about this all over again. This is a subject that I'm sick and tired of already, basically because I thought I had already passed as much information as I could pass. And of course, that's never the truth. Okay, there's always more unknowns. And so we're just barely scraping the surface of this subject matter because it goes way beyond what we normally expect of a printer, and whether a printer has the ability to decide when to do things. Epson printers, not so much. You can mistreat an Epson printer as much as you want, and then you'll pay for it. Okay, you'll pay for it with cleaning cycles, having to perform all its invasive type techniques to clear your nozzles and so forth. Canon printers, well, yeah, you could just ignore it for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and you power it on. I had an individual, I'll leave you guys with this one. This is a good one. I had an individual with a Pro-100. I think it was like 2 years it sat in a garage inside a box. And he decided to set it up. Not set it up from scratch, but set it back up. So he took it inside, turned it on, It did a massive cleaning cycle, ran a nozzle check. Damn, it was okay. It was perfect. You never know. It just depends. If you live in a humid area, maybe, I don't know where, in the south, and it was in the air-conditioned garage, then yeah, it probably stayed moist enough not to completely clog up. Also, keep in mind, and this is going to scare you guys that are getting into Canon printers, but Canon printheads are disposable, okay? They're not meant to last. Yeah, they're not meant to last. On the 6400 series of floor units, I think these go, I don't know, 44 and 60 something, 64-inch wide as well. 50, I don't know what size the width, the maximum width is, but they're floor units. So IPF 6400, 6450. You go through printhead. This is for a normal shop, which will be printing daily. Printheads will be required. It uses 2 printheads, by the way, six colors each. So you have a printhead for a set of 6 colors on a printhead, and it's specific, by the way. They're not interchangeable. So each printhead will run you like $500, and you gotta change them every 2.5 years. There you go. If that doesn't scare the heck out of you, I don't know what will. My Pro-100, again, my wooden head, I will knock on it. It's going to be 7 years. No, wait a minute. 6 full years this August. Okay, next year it'll be 7 years, hopefully. 6 full years this August since I installed it. And still on the same printhead. Internal ink pads are still okay. I haven't gotten any warnings. There's no way that I can figure out how close I am to the max saturation point. I really don't know. So again, 6 years this August it will be, and it is still working. And I've been refilling all this time. Okay, so that gives you an idea. Now, I don't print daily, dozens and dozens of prints. So again, maybe that's the reason it's lasted this long. So I print regularly on it, but it's not going to be a huge amount daily like a production shop would do. The guys that I talked about often that produce prints of old expired patents, people love to put those on the wall. They're really neat. And so they use Pro-100s. They got 100 printers in their shop. They produce thousands of prints a day, which they sell in their Amazon store. I'm not even going to tell you guys who they are. It doesn't matter. They have performed this operation for at least 1.5 years now. They refill on a daily basis. They got people who only refill. They got people who only rejuvenate cartridges. In other words, flushing them again to bring them back to normal operating conditions. Because after many refills, the sponge gets full of little air bubbles and it will not deliver ink as well anymore. So about every 50 refills, they refurbish all of the cartridges. They got people that can refill cartridges in about 15 seconds from reset to refill back to use. Wow. So again, they use Precisioncolors inks by the gallons. They have 100 Pro-100s in their arsenal. And they do this every single day of the week. I don't know for how many hours a day, but they do this daily, okay? And yeah, they're workhorses. What can I say? So you should be able to get a long life with those Pro-100s. And I really don't know about anything higher than that. How long a Pro-1000 will last, for instance. Okay. Be aware that theoretically, Pro-1000 printheads have what they call redundant nozzles per channel. So those are nozzles that are sort of on standby and will be used as needed. As one nozzle dies through overheating or whatever the reason, the other one adjacent to it will come into play, and you don't even notice it. You're not even told about it. At some point, you'll be surprised by I ran out of nozzles. And it doesn't matter how many other nozzles were still available on the other 11 channels. It needs all of those nozzles to be working. So when one channel uses up all of those nozzles that it had available, That's it. You need a new printhead. And you might as well just buy a new printer at that point. You might as well. Especially Pro-1000. You can get it for like, $1,100, $1,200. The printer will be like $700. So why bother, and you will need inks to prime it. Forget it, So it will cost you a lot more money to service it than to just simply start with a brand new printer. Unfortunately, that's the part of the economy of printers that I really hate, because it's very wasteful. And so again, why should I throw away a printer? It just needs a printhead, but in order for me to install a new printhead, I have to spend $700 and possibly another $700 worth of ink just to reprime it, plus an internal waste cartridge to catch all of the ink that I'm going to generate, the waste ink I'm going to generate during the repriming process. Yeah. Not to mention the ink that is inside the printhead. It has 12 dampers inside, 12 little cartridges holding ink. You can't extract it at all. So that gets tossed as well. So you see, all of this really bad economy, I guess you call it, wasteful economy. So, all right. Braun T says, you're the only info dude I can trust. Keep it up. Well, I hope that sometimes when I come across a little bit, strong, I could say a little bit too strong. That's the sergeant in me. And, but, I'm not going to BS anybody. I'm just going to tell it like it is. And, you take it or leave it. I mean, it's just the way that, the way that I am. And this is what I have, been doing all my life. Often you learn by doing, and most of the stuff that I have learned has been since age 11. I've been doing this photography thing, okay, through my childhood, through high school, middle school even, high school, a little bit in college, and then in the Army. That's all I did for 22 years. Then when I went into the sort of medical field, I got into medical photography. So that was awesome as well. So I've been able to work at many stations throughout the world, many situations, including combat, including research, including everything you can think under the sun. I did news. I was in the boat with when they invaded Grenada. I wasn't allowed off the boat. All I did was hang in there with the other newspaper people. And again, that was with the Army Pictorial, Combat Pictorial Detachment. We went to Central America in the early 80s, flew helicopters around all over the place, and did a lot of videography back with those early video cameras, a lot of that so-called night photography, if you will. They didn't have really good infrared cameras back then, but we did what we could do. We did the best we could. So now I'm retired and enjoying life as best I can. The health is not as great as it was when I was younger, but that happens. You get old, that's what happens. So my wife and I just enjoy life as best we can. We volunteer at the local school where she retired from, and we spend our time with our grandson, our kids. And even though they don't live close to each other, we get to see them once in a while. And we still have our interests that we follow. Again, we like to do miniatures. We like to do all sorts of other things. We like history. And so sometimes this channel, this particular subject, is sort of almost like an afterthought, because I really have to prioritize, what's more important. And of course, that is our life. Tomorrow we got doctor's appointments in the morning. So, then after that, we go to visit the school, and then we go pick up Nathan at school. So again, another full day tomorrow. I'm trying to get some flights in for my drones. I'm testing some new batteries. I want to see whether they're more efficient than the previous ones that I did. So all sorts of things that I need to get done. The weather has not been cooperative today. It was drizzling all day long. It wasn't that cold, but it was just drizzling. We're going to get snow this weekend. At least tomorrow and the next day, we got a good window of weather. And so I will be able to do that. Be able to do some testing outside. All right, enough of that. Tony Rose, hi, I'm from Birmingham, UK. And I have been watching your channel frequently, as I am thinking of buying a Pro 10S. Can you replace the maintenance tank once full? No, you cannot. You cannot. It doesn't have a tank. It has pads. So what they have done, the early systems of printers, they're still adopting it. They actually do this on purpose because it's sort of like they force you to buy a new printer after those pads become full. It requires a complete disassembly of the printer. You would think, if I was an engineer and I was working for the people, for you, the consumers, I would redesign that chassis with a open gate at the bottom that I could remove, and remove a container with those pads and replace them with a brand new one, clean pad, insert that container back in there and close it back up with, say, 4 or 5 set screws. That's it. No, you have to disassemble the complete printer from above to get to the base of that chassis where those pads sit. They just sit there. They're just on the bottom. It would be like if you had a box and the bottom was lined with absorbent pads. And a tube from that purge unit that creates that suction, it just dangles onto those pads, and ink is squirted out every time you perform a cleaning cycle. That's how it works. No, you cannot replace them yourself. The only printers, including even the Pro 1, would not allow you to do that. It would require complete disassembly. And so, again, all the guts need to come out. What a pain. They charge you probably 3/4 what the printer is worth to do that job. And sure, you might want to pay that kind of money if your mechanicals are still working, okay? But again, it's not going to happen for years. You would really have to perform a lot of cleaning cycles. Pro 1000, you change that cartridge yourself. And it's about, I think I've been paying like $15 US per cartridge through Autorama.com here in the US. Every time you do that, you're throwing away about maybe 1/4 of a liter of fluid, of ink, basically, all 12 colors at once, all 12 liquids at once, if you will. So it's quite wasteful. I mean, but again, it's just something you have to do. But at least they allow us to replace those. EPSON P-800 and all of the larger format printers do have user replaceable cartridges. Those printers simply cost way too much money for you to have to then have them serviced. And if it required complete disassembly, can you imagine if somebody came to your house to do that, the mess they would create? No, it has to be taken to a service center. And so again, what a pain. But no, you cannot change that yourself. Richard Rajewski. Yeah. Hi, me again. Thanks for all the helpful information. I'm hoping for a Pro 10 returning the Pro 100 I just received, yet did not open. I'm choosing to print with pigment over dye for longevity. Okay. Sounds like a good plan to me. Actually, the Pro 10, even though Tony Rhodes, okay, even though I told you all of that about the waste ink pads, remember, it might be 6-7 years before that even happens. Okay, it depends how much you print. Pro 10 is the simplest printer to refill in the universe. It just doesn't get better than that. The cartridges are reset. You flip them upside down so that the exit port is pointing up. You have a syringe, a very smooth moving syringe, or a bottle, and has a little tip needle on it. You go drip, 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 and you put that on a scale so that it reaches 33 grams when it is full. You will know because the ink will start to sort of overflow a little bit. So you don't go to that point, 32 grams, 33 grams, that is more than enough. And that's it. That's it. You pop it back into the printer. It's good to go. Okay. Pro 100 requires modification, requires all sorts of, procedures to do it correctly. Not so with the Pro 10. The Pro 10 will not be tampered with. So they will continue to flow perfectly as OEM flows. Okay. Because you're not doing any kind of invasive procedure to that cartridge. All you're doing is resetting it, flipping it upside down, and refilling it. The ink goes right into that bag, the bag auto expands for you. Amazing, right? Yeah, it does that. So it's really probably, if you're thinking immediately on possibly migrating over to a third-party source of ink, that's it. That is your printer. Nothing else that I know of or own is easier than that. Nothing. Okay, Eddie and Richard, he is in Los Angeles. All right. My stomping grounds when I grew up there. I grew up in LA. I went there when I was 11 and went to high school there, and went to LACC in 1968, 69. No, 1967, 68, then got drafted and went to the Army. All right. Eddie Jr. says, lots of great info on your channel. Thanks, Jose Rodriguez. All right. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate that. That's all I care about. Making sure that I got a lot of satisfied viewers, and those who I have actually dealt with through email have been very satisfied as well. To change the subject a little bit, today I got to call somebody who lives down in Falls Church, Virginia, just across the river from me. And that person was thinking about going over to a all-black printer system. Wow, what does that mean? That means, and unfortunately, not a Canon printer. You cannot use this ink on Canon printers. EPSON printers are the only ones. So you need to have a printer that you can dedicate to these black inks. And by black, I mean black, of course, and then shades of gray, from very dark to a lighter version. And these grays will substitute your existing palette of colors. You will dedicate that printer now to only black and white work. And you say, well, why should I do that? Why should I go through all that trouble? And of course, I'll have to use a RIP software, not my driver any longer. Why bother, right? Why bother? You would have to install the driver because the computer still has to recognize the presence of that printer. And then you use the RIP software to print your converted to black and white images. The way that RGB process handles black and white, and in a way, if you use an EPSON printer or a Canon printer and set it to so-called black and white mode on Canon and advanced black and white on EPSON, here's what happened. I'm going to try to draw a picture with my fingers. So you have, if you were to draw a scale, okay, with black being in the lower left corner, the lowermost portion of this rectangle, lowermost left, and then the upper right corner would be pure white. So this would be 0, this would be 255, and you draw a straight line. Okay, so each point, and you also draw like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 255 in a series of little dots. That would be a linear scale from black to white. But really, in real printing or even film photography, it's not linear like that. It's actually an S curve. So it'll be like this. Watch me carefully. Straight, and then plateau again at the top. So during that initial ramping up sequence here, before it becomes linear, there's about maybe 10 to 15 steps that are just kept compressed. If it was linear fully, there would be no compression. Okay? The same thing happens on the highlights. Those highlights plateau on top. So maybe the last 10 or 12 steps, say for instance like 243 to 255, they would become more compressed. There would not be so much separation where actually it should exist. So with piezography inks, you are not using the driver any longer. You're using a RIP. And if you're lucky to have a driver, if you're lucky to have a printer that is so-called supported by this RIP, and again, many of the family of EPSON printers that are refillable are already pre-supported within that RIP software, it will allow you to create a more straight line result So all of a sudden your black and white prints will have this ridiculous amount of detail in the shadows that would normally be compressed, because again, you would normally have an S curve. And on the highlights, you would have a ridiculous amount of detail as well. The only problem is you have to dedicate that printer to those inks. You have to get a set of refillable cartridges. You fill them up with those inks. You run a bunch of tests through your RIP software. And again, you then enjoy the best black and whites you have ever seen in your life. I just noticed that Apostol Mamiya is here with us. He's the guy that offered me that incredible amount of detail and data. And hopefully he will have even more later. He says right here, Jose, I have been observing the cleaning cycles of the Pro-1000 for some time now. I am timing them. I can say with confidence that they are not as straightforward as we might think. Yeah, that's exactly what you said. That's exactly what you said. If you could send me via email everything you said during that, I cannot find that comment you made for the life of me. I looked today. This is why I decided, let me just go on live and we'll discuss this. If you can just copy and send me that bunch of information you put out on my comment section, I would really appreciate that. I will make a dedicated video. I will name you as the author of that information, and then we'll proceed. Again, the more data we have, the more we will know about how the heck the Pro-1000 and 2000 and higher behaves. Apostol, I'm telling you, I have a Pro-100, Pro-10, and Pro-1. The Pro-1 mimics somewhat the antics, if you will, of the Pro-1000. Not so with the Pro-10, not so with the Pro-100. It seems to stick to that. Again, I was saying earlier, I don't know how long you've been here lurking, but I said earlier that I've been using my Pro-10 almost daily. I mean, multiple times a day. And it has, I'm right across. On the other side of the wall is where my Pro-10 sits. And I can hear it. And it's not performing cleaning cycles prior to printing. Okay? And I am absolutely sure I have passed many 60-hour cycles, okay, of time. And you know, every once in a while, it will run a little bit of a cleaning cycle prior to printing, but it's not something that I have to wait for like 2 to 3 minutes for the whole thing to finish, like the Pro-1000. So if I could get like actual times, actual periods, lengths of time, I can at least put something together that I can then contact Precisioncolors, discuss that with the owner. He is an engineer. He knows all this stuff. I mean, but he has not been able to figure out the Pro-1000 yet because he's got so many other things to do, as well as filling orders and all of that. So he's not going to have the time that apparently you have, because this is something that I would never even be able to approach checking. You are doing a magnificent job, and I really appreciate that. And a lot of us Pro-1000 owners would love to finally know the secrets, if there are any, of the Pro-1000. You also said, for example, I have observed some cleaning cycles for 50 hours after the last print and 147 hours. As a matter of fact, I'm printing right now. When I have a conclusive results, I will post in your group. So yeah, post it on the Facebook group, please, and I will pin that to the top. I have been here for 50 minutes, missed the first part of your streaming. Okay, so everything I discuss, if you don't mind watching this later, please watch it, because everything I discussed was pertaining to what you originally posted and I was able to read, which are now lost. So again, can you please find wherever you posted that and copy and email me the information? Here's my email. Because I finally want to get some of this info straight, because there's a lot of people out there that are dying to get a Pro-1000, because it is a very capable printer and we can refill it. We can refill it with whatever inks we have. There are single-use chips we can use. It is not a problem refilling this printer. The problem comes with all of the maintenance that it performs, and it has so many things, so many internal sensors that it seems to use to determine when it is necessary. So I was thinking, Apostle, I was thinking that this is what I mentioned earlier, that the frequency of printing, because it's a thermal printhead, and it will develop residue as it is heating all of these droplets of ink. So it's not necessarily to unclog your printer, unclog the nozzles. What gets clogged are the little orifices, the little openings, each nozzle. Also, the heating eventually starts to erode the inner diameter, the inner edge of that nozzle. There is some erosion taking place. There's some buildup of residue taking place. So I would think that within that 60-hour period, if I was to print dozens and dozens of 16 by 20s, medium density prints, that it would perform a cleaning cycle at some point during that period, whether it was 10 hours, 15 hours, 20 hours, or 59 hours. It really wouldn't matter. It would determine that it needs to do that, and it would go ahead and do it. Okay. Now, the question is, when it does it reset the counter? Is there such a thing as a counter? Have we been fooled all of this time, thinking there was an actual clock counting? Tick-tock, tick-tock. We don't know that either. Again, the information initially was only applicable for the 9500 Mark II. That's the service manual that was leaked. And all of a sudden, everybody was looking at it and realizing, oh my God, look at this. It does this every 60 hours, every 120 hours. And if you print something, it will reset it back to zero. You know that's BS now. We know that not to be true. But apparently, unless there was a problem in the translation, it may have been the case back in the days of the 9500 Mark II. But no longer the case now. All right, I think we're going to call it a night. My throat, I'm losing my throat. This has been very exciting for me, and I'm glad that you guys were able to come and land out of the blue just because I announced I had a possible live stream going on tonight. So if there's anything else, I'll give you guys one more chance. It's been 1 hour. We've been on for 1 hour, and that's more than plenty. If there's anything you guys want to discuss last minute, please post it right now. If not, then I will say goodbye. We'll see you on Sunday evening, of course, at 4 o'clock, like we always do. And oh, here we go. Here we go. See, I knew you guys would come through. Apostol says, done. If I find that comment, I'll send it to you. Richard says, this is Rajewski. Off topic. Yet, has anyone ever loaded color cartridges with relative shades of gray, then print a color image? I'm asking this. May provides more shades of gray, or create a disaster. Well, that's what those inks do. The inks that I discussed from Inkjet Mall. They are specifically designed to specific densities to sort of match the densities of the existing colors. So you have from black, photo black or matte black, and then grays, going all the way to yellow, which is your lightest gray, if you will. And then the RIP tells the printer how to interpret those grays. You're no longer working with color. See, when you print black and white with color inks, you are compositing colors to create neutrality. And it works and it doesn't work perfect. It's not a perfect way to create a neutral set of shades of gray from black all the way to white. You need real gray inks and black inks to do that. So that is all. Whether it be a disaster, possibly, if you screw up. I mean, who knows? And how would you dilute those inks with what? You can't just use water. You got to use the same secret formula, ink base, that they use. Okay. So again, it's best to start with an EPSON printer that allows you to refill. That's the key. If the printer allows you to refill, what would you use? How about a P400, 8-color printer? You can get refillable cartridges for it. You can go to Inkjet Mall and buy their 8-color ink set. Then you just have to learn how to use the RIP software. Okay? And so, what about ink switch valve? It doesn't use one. So that would be the best possible printer to use for going over to a PSography setup. I may do that. And then we can start a whole new series of videos having to do with that. So again, because you don't have a black ink switch valve, you would never be plagued with that, that valve going south on you like it will on a P800 possibly, or any other 9-color printer that uses an 8-channel print head. Wow, the wrong approach. Why would you use an 8-channel print head and choose to create a 9-color inkset? You have to share a channel. Yeah, that's where the problem comes in. So again, that's one of my other pet peeves and one of my wishes for future printers, that they do away with this mismatch of printhead versus inkset. It would be like trying to pass. It would be like you have 8 hallways, but 9 people to pass, and all of them have to pass. No, you can't. You can't push 2 people through the same 1-person capacity hallway. They got to take turns. Why should I be taking turns switching from matte black ink to photo black ink, back to matte black? And every time I do that, I'm wasting ink because I have to push the previous ink out to make room for the new ink. Yeah, not a good idea. They've been kind of forced into this. Apostle Mamiya says, I don't know how the printer operates, but it seems that the 60-hour rule does not apply for sure. Yeah, that could very well be the case. I have noticed that on my Pro-1000. I think for the other printers that I mentioned, it may come close. I did an experiment on the Pro-100. I said it earlier. I actually timed it. I printed lots of prints between the first 0-hour point. It created a cleaning cycle. And then I went for like 5 days printing here and there randomly. No cleaning cycles. It did a little purge at the end of every print because it needs to clean and suck any kind of residual ink that's on the purge pad and possibly reprime the printhead a little bit. It does that. That's not a cleaning cycle per se. At 120 hours, actually I did 119 hours, no cleaning cycle. Then 120 plus hours, cleaning cycle. It did it. I saw it. So I thought, oh, okay, nice. It is true. So maybe it's true for something like the Pro-100. Again, I'm more concerned about the Pro-1000. That's the one that concerns me the most. And I think that's the one that concerns most people because it doesn't seem to be that big of an issue in the Pro-10 and the Pro-100. It is on the Pro-1, however. I just recently did a nozzle check and yeah, it did a cleaning cycle for me. Tony Rhodes says, have another question regarding clogged printer. We'll email you directly if that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Apostle Mamiya says, Jose, the comment is on your recent video, one called Canon Cleaning Cycles. I looked in there and I couldn't find it. That's exactly where I looked. And I could not find it. I have no clue what happened. Let's take a look at that. So we are here on my display. Got video stuff. Let me cut out my little thing of me there. We'll remove me. We don't have to look at me. I'm going to click on that. And let me click on... oh, this is totally different, folks. Hang on a second. Oh, here we go. Comments on this particular video. So this is the one about cleaning cycles. So I had Dunny Monster, a temporal lighting, Dunny Monster, a temporal, Dunny Monster, a temporal, Pesto, Igor, Rudy. That's it. You're not here. What happened? Let me see. If I turn that off, I should be able to find you. Maybe I had it filtered. Yeah, that could be the reason. Ah, here you are. See? I did answer. That's why That's why it was filtered out. Okay, I found it. Very good. Okay, excellent. So, like I said, whatever you can find out, please, immediately share it with us, because I'm trying to put together something that makes sense here. If it's more randomized, then there's really no logic to it. But I'm sure there is some sort of logic to it. It has to be. Again, I suspect, now that you brought this up, I suspect that it has to do with some sort of sensory system built into the printer, that it knows when to do it, and not necessarily a forced system. In other words, a forced timed system etched in stone. Whereas the less sophisticated printers, yeah, they don't have that technology, so they are then set in stone every 60 hours, every 120 hours, whatever. But not so with the Pro 1000. Probably that's the case. Pro 1000 has lots of sensory systems built in, my friend. So, yeah, you should see how it measures ink. It's really amazing. And again, unlike the Pro 10, the Pro 100, or even the Pro 1, they just don't have that degree of accuracy. So, all right, let me see what else is on here. We still got 30 people, only 21 likes. Come on, what's going on here? I thought this was going to be the record breaker here, like maybe 50, like maybe 100, 100, 1 to 1. Let's see what happens. Okay, Roberto Lauerman. Are the inks from the PFI 706 and PFI 1700 cartridges the same as the Pro 1000? I can say that the 1700s are, and I think these are just two different sizes. Is that it? Yeah, if that is the case, then yeah, they are the same. Same exact ones. You just get a lower per ml cost if you go with the PFI 1700. And again, I have a link on my descriptions that take you to a site where you can purchase those 700 ml cartridges, free delivery to any U.S. address for $225 each. So that's a lot of ink. Okay, that's what I have done. I have bought one at a time, and I now have a complete set of colors for my Pro 1000. So I'm able to continue printing with OEM, which is great. I used to do this. This is something that I started doing a while back. I stopped at this point because it sort of lost interest. I was having users, you guys that are actually photographers, to send me via Dropbox some of your best images, and I would go ahead and print them on my printers. You tell me what printer you wanted me to print them on, and I would then dedicate a video to your work. And that's what I was doing back then. And I did have one individual from Australia that sent me a couple of images. Now, these are not high resolution images per se. I told them to just send me medium resolution so I could just make maybe like a 7x5 or 8x10 prints. But I went ahead and loaded some of these images on my Pro 1000 because I wanted to test one thing before I even pull them out here. I wanted to test one thing, and I'll leave you guys with this. I've been here too long already. I had some cut pieces from rolls. Every time I get to the point where I only have like maybe 50 inches of paper, I just remove the roll. And so I had a bunch of these, leftovers, if you will, of paper that I thought, wait a minute, since the Pro 1000, supposedly with this new firmware, which I don't know whether it's the European firmware or the USA firmware. I don't know. I know the European's available now. Not so much about the US. I haven't received any kind of notice about that yet. When you install that firmware, it extends your maximum 25-inch and some fraction length limitation as to like 17 by 25 something. Now you can go 17 by 47 inches. So I thought, okay, I got like 50 inches of paper here. Let me go ahead and see if I can load this length of cut paper from a roll accurately enough so that I can print 17 by 22s on either side. I want to know whether the borders that I create, because all of the prints will have borders, whether the borders will be accurate. In other words, they'll remain the same width as the paper travels. Now, this means that I better not skew that paper, okay? And this is the thing that I was worried about mostly. People are so bent up about, installing this firmware so that I can print panoramas. And I thought, I don't need that. Besides, I'm refilling. I can't take a chance. This is going to block me out for some reason or another. And besides, I have a P800 with a roll adapter. So why should I care about installing that software, that firmware, just so that I can print to, 20, whatever, 47 inches in length. No need for that. So I decided to load that paper. I set up a custom paper size of 17 by 25, and I loaded up some images and I printed them. It was perfect. Okay, all I did was put the paper there. Of course, half of it hung out the back. I lined it up. I sent the job, ran over to the printer, make sure that when it started to advance the paper slowly, by the way, I have it on quiet mode. You might want to do that. Quiet mode makes the printhead move slower, which means it will be running cooler than normal. That extends the life of a printhead, especially Canon printheads, okay? So that's one little trick you could do. Set it on quiet mode. Everything runs slower, quieter, and cooler. So heat is the killer of a Canon printhead. So do that. I put the paper, it began to feed. I came over here, monitor what I was doing, went back, and then it ended printing, and it spit out the whole roll. Nothing was binding, nothing was skewed. So I thought, okay, well, I ate my words, of course, because I said, oh, you guys are going to have a lot of trouble feeding, sheets of 17 by 47 inch paper. Apparently, the feed mechanism is so damn good that nothing like that happened. All right, so here are the results. And then I just really have to go upstairs and eat dinner. 17 by 25. With a beautiful seascape. Sun is going down. This is, I think, Red River Polar Luster paper. Again, I have a 17 by 100 foot roll loaded in my P800 right now. I took some of that. This is what I'm using on the experiment that I just ran on the Pro-1000. So I've been running this paper, my P800, constantly. And as I get to the last 50 inches or so, I just remove the roll and proceed with another new roll. That's why I have all these little cutoffs that end up kind of being kept on the side. So here's another shot of a beautiful sunset. This is all from Australia. And again, these are 25 inch wide or long prints, 17 inch wide. And again, all the borders are perfect. They don't change in width. That means the paper is running straight and not skewed. So what I said earlier about being able to load, long sheets of paper like that, maybe I was wrong. And I think I was. So hope you guys enjoy this. I may do this a little bit more often if I have some really pressing subjects to talk about. And again, it seems that you guys come in and join regardless what you're doing, which is amazing. I do that with a lot of people that I support on YouTube. Whenever they are on live, I try to make sure that I am on there and at least comment and hit that like button. That's what I do for them because it's very important. The channel needs to be promoted. Those are the, all the people that I follow, those channels need to be promoted. The only way to do that is to show YouTube that the viewers care about the content that's being created. And that's why we always hammer that. Smash the like button. Yes, they need to see that. It's not only about the length of time people watch videos. It's also about the liking. Okay, so I appreciate that. We'll see you next week. Again, I don't know what else I'm going to talk about this week as I do regular videos. We'll come up with something. As I said earlier, we're going to test some papers that I did find. I was cleaning the room up a little bit. It's still not in the shape that I would like to have a visitor even come over, but I found some papers that I would love to run through a couple of my printers and see how they perform. So maybe we'll do that this week. All right. Thank you so much for watching again. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share. And of course, like. And until the next time, Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye. We'll go ahead and end the stream right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.